Good morning, everybody. College football Saturday, best bets and picks powered by the Sharp app. I'm Mark Drumheller here with Dave Gleckner, and we are winding down towards the end of the season, Dave, and we have some massive matchups on the docket today. I can't wait to talk about it. Myself personally am pumped up about these Pac-12 matchups. You got UCLA, you got USC, and you are Big 12 Dave today going down to Texas. We're doing it big. So you pumped up for today's games, buddy?
I am. I can't wait. I just kind of today, and we'll get into those games. But outside the Lone Star State, like you said, Pac-12 is hot today with the great rivalry with USC, UCLA. Also makes it really intriguing. So much to the point, Drums, that I saw like a lot of Pac-12 games are playing early today. Was that to get out of USC, UCLA's way? Or like you got Arizona State going off at 3, you got Washington State going early too. It was a little odd.
Yeah, it definitely is. You know, we all like our Pac-12 after dark, but you know, USC, UCLA taking center stage. That's a game that I definitely want to talk about. And I want to talk a little bit about how the college football playoffs is shaping. But before we do that, guys, you know the deal. If you haven't downloaded the Sharp app, make sure you do that. The #1 sports gambling all-in-one platform for bettors. Listen, our professional handicappers are banging out bets today. College football, NFL, NHL, college basketball season is popping. Get in the Discord. The links are below and join us. Be a part of the #1 sports gambling community over at the Sharp app. AI prediction models. We got it all there. So come join us. But Dave, listen, everything is starting to take shape now in the college football playoffs. We're seeing these teams kind of get picked off week by week. TCU still hanging in there. I know we're going to talk about that game in a little bit, but I want to touch base on the game next week that everyone's going to be talking about. The Michigan Wolverines go to Ohio State to take on the Buckeyes. Big revenge game for the Buckeyes because there's a lot of talk this week, Dave, about these two Big Ten powerhouses and how they're going to approach this week's games, right? We know Ohio State has a history of not covering the spread the game before Michigan, right? Michigan has a tough task in front of them with Illinois, who's been coming off 2 straight losses, really saw a surprising start to their season spiral. And, you know, how are they going to approach this game? Do they just try and get out of there healthy, or are they going to try and put up style points for the voters? You know, how do you think that these two coaches, you know, Harbaugh and Ryan Day, are going to approach these matchups today?
I think they're going to approach them. You know, they've seen the landscape of college football this year. They've seen people just get sniped from, you know, way outside the top 25. And I think to that point, I don't think they need style points. I know they don't need them, but I think they're going to have the attention of their opponents today, even with the big game looming next week. So I do, you know, from Ohio State's perspective, they got to get a little healthy in a way. And I think Dave is talking like he's going to get the full running back cores back today. I'd be surprised if you saw Williams and Henderson both play today, but he's talking like he wants to get them in there and get them reps. So it's kind of a situation where I think in that game, they're just going to have to play their game and not get too creative and really just dominate and then get out there by the third quarter and pull the starter. So I think that's where Ohio State goes. Michigan's a little different. Illinois is dangerous. I know they were ugly last week. I know Purdue put something on them, but that team's played like feisty all year. That was just one we didn't expect. And I think they will be fired up for this game today. So Michigan's got to watch out. That's a team that I think Illinois, they're going to play a little ugly and mash it up with them.
Yeah, I think, listen, these kids are human beings, so they have to be looking ahead a little bit.
Well, that's true.
But, you know, they have to handle business today. Like, they can't, like, I don't think that they're strong enough to where they can just kind of, like, take their foot off the gas. You know, I didn't touch the Ohio State-Maryland game. Maryland, to me, has just been a tough team to kind of get my arms around all season. You know, really inconsistent, and they're built a little bit different than they have in the past. You know, I think, you know, it's been a up and down season for them. But the, you know, that Illinois-Michigan game, I did play a little bit Illinois plus 10 in the first half. Not a huge play, but I did think that there was some value there getting it at 10. You know, when you look at Michigan and just, you know, how they've played this year, kind of like their game script, they got caught playing with their food a couple times against Michigan State. You know, we saw it against Rutgers, was almost losing by halftime if they weren't losing. You know, I forget off the top of my head, but that game was very, very close. So not necessarily a fast starter. And, you know, I kind of had to ask myself the question is, does next week's game kind of make them fast starters because they want to get out to a big lead and they want to, be able to call the dogs off and, get people rested. But I don't think, a Tiger can change its stripes like that. Like, I think they're a team that really takes a little bit of time to get warmed up. And I think Illinois is going to come out and try and punch them in the mouth and really slow down the clock, slow down the possessions. And, that makes this 10 points more valuable.
Yeah, that's kind of what I meant about mash it up. I totally agree with you. And that quarterbacks, because that's really how I think it kind of, the next week. CJ Stroud struggles early. He can get out of it, right? JJ McCarthy struggles early. Michigan's going to be in for a dogfight. Like, it's just not that easy for that offense to get out of it. I do think there will be a slight look ahead from the kids. I don't think from the coaches. We'll see two teams undefeated heading into next week with an epic matchup.
Yeah, I think so. It's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait. I want to see how these teams look today in kind of preparation for that because it's a big revenge spot for the Buckeyes at home. I think they're going to have a lot of success in that game, but they're going to have their hands full at Michigan. Michigan a lot tougher, even though they don't have the toughest schedule. I think Michigan has been a lot tougher than a lot of people expected. So, Dave, let's get over to the Big 12, right? That's your home this week. 3 plays in the Big 12. Which one do you want to kick it off with? Oh, might be losing Dave.
No, I'm back in.
No,
sorry, I don't know I don't know what skipped there. But hey, I'm going to start off with the big one first. And it took a lot for me to get to this point. I watched a show last night for all you guys, trying to figure out how to relieve some stress. And his first episode was he had to walk out off this hanging we'll call it pole, ramp, high wire almost, over a 900-foot building. That felt like me today to get to this pick. But I'm going with the Baylor Bears plus 2.5. I had to just not look down. That's how I'm saying it. I didn't have to. I just had to walk. I had to trust myself. The key words were stay positive. And I'm staying positive with Baylor. They looked ugly last week. Listen, I get it. 31-3 to Kansas State. What happened? I don't get it. They were on a little bit of a roll, winning their previous 3 against Kansas, Texas Tech, Oklahoma. So Baylor was really starting to round into what I thought was a better team. But remember on the show last week, Drums, I said, I think TCU's got a chance to beat Texas, but their big trap is next week in Waco. And I'm sticking with it. TCU had to use everything last week. I mean, just everything to grind out that win against Texas. They told the committee, we can't play defense. Well, guess what? We can against Texas. And they did. But let's go back to the reality. They're 113th in pass rush rate in the nation out of 130 teams. Blake Shapen, terrible against the pressure against pass rush. Great when it's not coming. I think it's just a perfect situation. Dave Arenado has also been great coming off a loss. 4-1 ATS coming off a loss. Is this the first time ever a 10-0 team this late in the regular season? Well, not first time ever, but first time since 2015. It's favored by less than a field goal. I mean, a lot of people just see it. I think TCU's hanging on by the seams. And I think this is just a really, really good spot for Baylor today. It's senior day as well. They're going to be fired up. And don't forget, last point, Baylor lost by 2 to TCU last year, which potentially knocked them out of the college football playoffs. That loss was overhanging late in the season when they could have gone to the Big 12 championship game with just one loss. So a lot of revenge on the mind. And I think they do it. I think they paid back TCU from last year.
Yeah, definitely going to be a fascinating game. Not a ton to argue with. I could see how Baylor has been kind of looking forward to this opportunity. Now they get them at home. And the line is short. I'm not going to lie. Listen, I'm a sucker for a good story. I love the Frog. So I did take a little piece of TCU at that short number. But, the big point that you brought up, Dave, that I couldn't agree with more is, this TCU team just has to be worn down mentally week after week, these big games. And listen, they had their bye earlier in the season. So I think they played 9 straight games, if I'm not mistaken. So
correct.
That's a lot mentally, physically. You almost have to wonder how much do they have left in the tank, coming into this game. I love the story. I love Sonny Dice. I love the story of Max Duggan, really losing the job and then coming back and leading this team on this run. So it's a lot of fun, man. I know a lot of people that were on TCU to win the Big 12 before the season started, and I'm got a little FOMO. I didn't get a little piece of that action because they're right there in the mix. But going to be definitely a fun matchup. But like I said, couldn't agree with you more about this tough get up spot for TCU. 9 games in a row after big game after big game after big game. Now they got to show something. We'll see what they have left in the tank. Going to another matchup, I'm going to roll with Kansas State here. Let's look at Kansas State -7.5. This total opened at 56 down to 54, right? So we're seeing some movement on the total. There are some 8s out there with Kansas State against West Virginia. And I just think that this is a smash spot for Kansas State. Like, they got everything cooking. Like you said, big win over Baylor last week. And I think that they're, going to be a tough test, if they can sneak into this Big 12 championship. They're a team that runs the ball well. I think they're live against anyone. We saw, how they played against TCU, got out to that big lead, let things kind of fall apart. But, they're a tough team, real tough team. In West Virginia, a lot of uncertainty, right? They benched JT Daniels today. They're going with Green, the backup. Offense seems to be a mess. They hired a new AD, right? Not great for Neil Brown. Usually you bring in a new AD, he wants his own coach, right? So is this guy that, The Walking Dead? What is going on in West Virginia? Obviously, they haven't met expectations. And you just kind of have to wonder what type of motivation they're going to have in this game down the stretch. Money coming in on Kansas State and on the under. I think that's because of, the JT Daniels getting benched. And plus, the Wildcats, what they're going to want to do. They're going to want to run the ball down your throat. So I just think that, listen, it's a big number to lay road chalk here with Kansas State. But after that win against Oklahoma, I can't see West Virginia getting back up and winning another one. And plus, I need them to lose one more so I can cash my season total under on West Virginia. So I'm hoping that comes today. But, listen, the win against Oklahoma was a big one. But I think the most glaring thing coming out of that is they only scored 23 points on Oklahoma. Most teams do that in the first half. So, I think the offense has a lot of problems here. I think Kansas State's able to get it done.
Hey, and Will Howard's starting today for Kansas State too. You saw that, right? And I think actually that kind of makes it better. And I'll say for this reason, they know what they are with Will Howard. And that's he runs it and he gives it to Deuce Vaughn and he passes it to Deuce Vaughn. Everybody else can just chill out because that's where it's going. It's going to go over and over and over again. And they can play a defensive style of ball that they play. Like Baylor, look, they only scored 3 points last week against K-State. They were averaging 39 a game the previous 6. So I think K-State kind of knows what they are with Will Howard. I like this pick.
Yeah, I think so, man. I think it's a good one. I like K-State in this spot, so going to pounce on that. But Dave, I know you got another Big 12 matchup lined up. Why don't you hit us with that one?
Yeah, there was an epic game out there last year, and it was between the Longhorns and Jayhawks. And no, I'm not talking college basketball. I'm talking football. And it was a 57-56 win by the Jayhawks as a 31-point underdog. And it kind of put Lance Leopold's program on notice last year. And I know I noticed it because coming into the season, I talked about Kansas being a team that could go over the win total. I didn't realize they were going to go over it in the first 5 weeks, but here they are today. And they're playing the Texas team, bringing back their star quarterback. Jalen Daniels looks like he'll play today. But I think in the end, I really like Texas in this matchup. I did play Texas Tech last week against Kansas. I think, like I said earlier, the magic, and if you rewind that tape to last week, it's starting to fade on Kansas. And look, they became bowl eligible. They're good. This season's a success, right? They beat Texas now 2 out of the last 5 years. Both times, 3 touchdown dogs or more. I just think Sarkisian has finally figured out a mix here that works versus a lot of these teams. And I think it's going to be a huge day from Bijan. Last week was an anomaly. I can't believe that they could not even get in the red zone. They only scored a defensive touchdown against TCU. It just didn't make sense. I think they go back to what makes them right. And if you look at their rush success, they're top 50 in the nation. Kansas is 117th. So that's a lot of Bijan today. And then when you look on defense, Kansas only has one edge and that's their pass success. But Texas is pretty good pass defense too. I mean, I go up and down the key categories, 12 categories, offense, defense. Texas is better in 11 out of 12 of them. I think they could blow this game wide open, and I think they remember 57-56, and I think that hits Sark real bad. And I think he goes, and I think he's had it for his team from the loss last week, from the loss last year, and they're not that far out. They got a shot to make the Big 12 championship. They need a little help, but it starts today with a win, and it starts today with being more physical versus Kansas, and I think they pull that off. I like Texas today to cover. It's a pretty big number. I got it 8.5, but I like them today to cover this number with revenge on the mind and just clearly the better team on almost every aspect of that football field.
Yeah, that's the key, Dave, is, that's the deal with Texas, man. Like, they are talented AF, as the kids like to say. Like, they have all the players look great off the bus. It's just sometimes you don't know what you're getting, when they step on the field. But I think they're going to bounce back here. I like this spot. It's always a little tough laying points, with an inconsistent team like Texas. But I think that they're going to use this as an opportunity to really kind of put a stamp on their season, get revenge here against Kansas team. Absolutely love it, man. Listen, people can say what they want about Texas, and listen, I have a lot to say, right? Like, they've been up and down all year, but they're not going away. Like, they're going to be a powerhouse next year, man. Like, they're recruiting, and now that they have Manning in the fold, like, it's only going to get bigger and bigger for Texas. So definitely one of the most talented teams, and there's a pretty big gap here, on paper between these teams, a much bigger gap than the spread shows. So I think there is an edge here on Texas. So I absolutely love the play. Speaking of talent, though, man, there's a team in the Pac-12, USC Trojans, that, one of the most talented teams in the country on paper, but again, very, very inconsistent, much like Texas, right? And they're taking on, the UCLA Bruins Pac-12 showdown. Pac-12 is kind of like a war of attrition now, right? We got USC, we got UCLA, we got Oregon, we got Utah. It's kind of like the Hunger Games. Like, we're going to see who survives this and makes it out of the Pac-12. Unfortunately, I don't think any of these guys are going to make it to the college football playoff. But, it's still a very, very important game here between two rivals, USC going to the Rose Bowl. Lined is a 2.5-point favorite. We got a total of 76. We're going to see a ton of points. Money piling in on the over. Opened at 73.5. The line at 2.5 has held kind of steady here with USC as a road favorite. And Dave, I'm on the Bruins here. Like, I'm going to be honest with you. Like, I don't see what the hype is with USC. And I've been talking about this all week, and people have been kind of side-eyeing me like they don't understand. This USC Trojans team, man, they got a lot of big names, but I just haven't seen it on the field. We looked the last couple weeks. Yes, they beat Colorado 55-17. I know they beat Rice like 60-0 earlier in the season, right? But, you look at it, they beat Stanford by 13, right? 2 weeks, before the Colorado game, it was, Cal by 6. Let up 35 points to Cal. It was Arizona. It was another one-score game, right? Like, these aren't good teams, and they're able to score on USC, and they're able to kind of hang around here. And, say what you want about UCLA, DTR, Chip Kelly, they got the number one, rushing offense in the country with Zach Charbonnet. Nobody really runs it better from an efficiency standpoint. And, they're going to run all over this USC team, I feel like, today. It's going to be close, because UCLA obviously has their defensive warts that Caleb Williams and the boys are going to be able to exploit. But I like UCLA getting the points here at home in this matchup. I think that this is, a USC team getting too much respect. They're talking about the Trojans in the college football playoffs. And I'm like, based on what? Like, what was their big win? Like, Corvallis? Was that the big win for the Trojans?
Yeah. And it's funny, you mentioned the Colorado game last week. Don't hold me to this. I'd have to go back and look. I bet you 55, out of those 55 points, 42 might have been the second half or last, it was ugly early. I remember I was playing some DFS action. And I'm like, where is everybody? This is Colorado.
Where's my points at?
Yeah. And then I realized Travis Dye got hurt. And that's really where the key I wanted to get on this game.
Late in the game.
I can give you all you want on on USC and how good they are, how talented they are. But look at what they've played. Obviously, we've talked about that. And those numbers, I think, can be a little skewed. And now you lose that key weapon, that Oregon transfer that was just their kind of, jack of all trades, just a lightning in a bottle.
Yep.
Great running back. I think taking him away is huge coming into this game. And the one point I can't get off of is that the rush success rate of UCLA, third best in the nation. USC is 119th. We tend to highlight games when you can dominate the ball on the ground, and Charbonnet will today, and you'll get some DTR in there too. They're going to have so many easy third down conversions or second down conversions that opens up that pass game to Bobo and the team. And it's just, I feel like this is, UCLA is not great on defense either. Don't get me wrong. But I think they just have a little bit enough to make a couple challenging stops, just like they did against Utah. And I think overall in the end, I like UCLA too. There's a point too. I'm telling you, we know Chip from being here in Philly. He's probably going to have a chip on his shoulder with USC actually getting talked about way more than them, with the new coach coming into town and them going all in and trying to be the team out there in LA again. Nah, not today. Chip's not going to have it today. He's not. He's going to be the Dave Arnauta that Baylor was to Lincoln Riley. I just feel it.
I think so, man. And I think, when you look at Lincoln Riley's offense, a lot of people see the names. They see Caleb Williams. They see Jordan Addison. They see Mario Williams. But this offense really at its core, and in the same way at Oklahoma, really the foundation of it is, the running game. So, that Travis Dye loss is massive to them, massive. And, I think UCLA's in a good spot. Got some guys checking in. Let's hit these comments real quick, guys. I apologize.
They are.
Baylor, tough schedule too. Yeah, definitely.
Well, and with Baylor, like we said earlier, some of their out of conference way tougher than TCU. So, yeah, that's where you get that. Yep.
Yeah.
Out to BYU.
But I think the 9 games in a row really, and just not only that, but mentally, these games are tough. When you're playing every week, trying to keep this dream alive, you know what I mean? And kind of earn respect every week. And every week people are like, oh, this is the week you're going to go down and you have to prove them wrong. You got to get up every single week. And I think, it's tough. And, a lot of credit to Sonny Dykes for getting his team motivated and going on this run. Incredible. Dan Green, dissing our Mountaineers. I agree. Brown stinks. Yeah, dude.
He's done.
They're just they're a program in flux. They got to, they benched JT Daniels today. What a weird career for JT Daniels. Georgia, right on the cusp of the Heisman National Championship.
USC. You're the king of the – you're supposed to be this blue chip recruit top in the nation. And then you go to Georgia and you got kicked out by some curly-haired dude, Stetson Bennett, who was a walk-on. And then you go to WVU in the mountains and where they just don't care about football as long as they got that coach there.
Yeah, and they and he gets benched again. So they're going with Green. Yeah. They're fade material today, Danny. And then UCLA money line, if better odds, you like outright. I like outright, but you know what? These Pac-12 games, David, I'm sure that you're in line with me. This thing could be 59-58, man. And you get into overtime, and it's because no one can stop it. You get an overtime, and it's 2-point conversion game, right? So now you want the 2.5. So listen, the money line's tempting, but we don't want to turn a winner into a loser here, Dan. Let's take the 2.5.
I do, and let me just add one other thing on USC. I read somewhere they're 114th in special teams. They can't kick a field goal. When you want to bet a close game, a 2 or 3 point spread, you
awesome point.
Damn right have a kicker, and they don't. Yeah. So that's another reason I like UCLA.
Yeah, guys, you got questions? Keep them coming, man. We are here for you. Also, do us a favor. Do the good people at Sharp a favor as well. Hit that like button. Right? Let's get these likes up. Let's make sure if you're listening, hit the like button so we can, have this thing popping on the algorithm. But Dave, let's get into your last bet, man. I know you got one more in the holster from the Big 12.
Yeah, I did. They did me well last week. I think they're a sneaky team. They have been all year, and we're going to go with some Red Raiders today, plus 3.5 out in Iowa State. That's the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Came up with a nice 43-28 cash last week against Kansas. See, Texas Tech is funny. We think of Patrick Mahomes a little bit when we get back there. Baker Mayfield played there a little bit too. And you think of these Cliff Kingsbury run offenses, and they do have a nice offense. Don't get me wrong, but really where they make their money, they're very good defensively. They're top 40 in almost every metric defensively, but especially excel in the pass success rate, top 20 in the nation. Iowa State can't run the ball. I mean, their rush success rate is 123 out of 130. I mean, awful, right? The only thing they can do to potentially move it is throw to Xavier Hutchinson, and that's in the pass game. But that's Texas Tech's strength. So Iowa State's going to struggle to score points. I mean, really struggle. And then on the other side, Iowa State, good defense. We get it. Texas Tech, pretty good rush team, top 40 in the nation. And their success rate passing hasn't been great, but they just haven't had a quarterback. They've been bouncing back and forth between Donovan Smith, Baron Morton. Last week, they finally get their guy from the preseason back in Tyler Shaw. And I think that kind of stability, helped them last week against Kansas. They had some success in the passing game. And I think it'll roll over to this week. Texas Tech has to win one game in their next two to be bowl eligible. They got to beat this. They got to win this one or Oklahoma. I think it's this one. I'll take them plus the 3.5. Let's give you one last thing. For all the praise that Matt Campbell got in Iowa State in years past, how he played, it was mainly as an underdog. As a fave, he's not as well. And even as a small underdog, he's not good. Anywhere between 3.5 plus or minus, he's 5-17 against the spread. I just don't like him in these close games.
Yeah, I love Texas Tech. And listen, this year, a year of transition for them, right? Definitely a year of transition. They bring in Zach Kuechly, right, to run the offense. They don't have the weapons there. They don't have the quarterback, right? They have a ton of injuries at quarterback. And I think that's why you're seeing the defense kind of have to step up. As you mentioned, I think that's a great point. But this is a team I'll be very interested to see what they do in the portal in the offseason to kind of see if they can go out there and get the big quarterback to kind of, pair with Kuechly here and, really turn them into, a team to watch in the Big 12. Because I think they have, a couple foundational pieces in place. I just think they really didn't have the stability at the quarterback position to really make enough noise. But I definitely think they can get the job done today against this Iowa State team that is, kind of underwhelming, offensively to say the least.
Yeah, and they got to win their next two games to be bowl eligible. That's today and at TCU.
That's all the motivation you need.
I'm talking about Iowa State. I just don't see.
Oh.
I'm like they got an uphill task, and I just don't think they can get there. Where's the?
They might already packed it in. Yeah.
Yes.
They might
yes. That's what I was saying.
Yeah. That makes sense. No, that definitely makes sense. All right, so let's wrap things up, Dave. We got a couple minutes, guys. If you have any questions, any best bets that you're firing on, you want our opinion on, definitely run it through. I want to talk about before we get out of here, real quick, just the college football playoff, the landscape, right? We have a pretty good idea. Georgia Bulldogs are going to be in there, right? And, how do we see the rest of it shaping out, right? Like, I think we know the Big Ten winner is going to get in there, right? And Tennessee, barring any kind of, upset loss, is probably going to get in there. We got a question here from our guy, Concert Crashers. What about the under? Any opinion on the total?
Yeah, I do. So, it always gets tricky, but Iowa State's past 6 games have gone under 6 in a row. I mean, I lean that way. I definitely would. It just eventually that streak gets broken.
Yeah, the market's catching up and they keep pushing it down and down. So it's like, how long do you want to risk it?
Yeah, so it's a no play for me, but I mean, they have gone 6 straight games under. So I was looking at that, but Texas Tech.
Tell you what, you like Texas Tech defense, maybe team total under for Iowa. Iowa State, that might be a spot to look at.
Yeah.
Could be interesting. But getting back to the college football playoffs, we appreciate the questions, guys. Keep them coming. But listen, we know Big Ten winner, whether it's Ohio State or Michigan State, right? Tennessee is probably going to get in based on strength of schedule. 4th spot, Dave, I know you're betting against TCU today, right? So if they go down, who do you think ends up in that 4th spot? Do we think it's like Clemson, can kind of make a run for that spot? Do we think that, if, the Big Ten loser, whether that's Michigan or Ohio State, I think Ohio State has a much better chance of getting back in with a loss to Michigan than Michigan does based on Michigan's soft schedule. We were all here at the beginning of the season when they treated their non-conference like it was preseason, right? They're out there against Hawaii and I don't even know was it like Nevada or Colorado State?
I think they might have UConn too. Like it was bad.
I'll tell you what, UConn swinging back on people.
They are now.
Fun team to watch, man. Yeah, but
that's Jim
obviously,
Moore, right?
Yep.
That's Jim Moore.
Gotta love him, man. Gotta love him. He's got that playoffs in his jeans. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so, good old Jimmy Moore. But listen, I think that part's fascinating. Like, I think TCU could run it. And if they do run it, like, I mean, they obviously get in. But if they don't, like, is it going to be, I guess you have to ask yourself, like, who do you think is going to come out of the ACC? Is it going to be Clemson or North Carolina? I almost think Clemson has a better chance of getting in if they win the ACC to North Carolina, probably based on schedule as well, because, their Notre Dame loss looks a lot better, right? Like, well, I guess both their Notre Dame's loss look a lot better. They both lost to Notre Dame, right?
They did, but Notre Dame beat Clemson by way more, and that was a bad eye test. If you're going by eye test,
yeah, right,
so I'm not sure that loss ever looks better for Clemson. I think they're out. I think Clemson is out no matter what. I think you'll see a 2-loss team jump them. So that's tough though. Would they put a 2-loss team in? So the key's going to be LSU, Georgia. Yeah, maybe not. But so it's got to be. I guess it's got to be. If we look at it, LSU, Georgia gets in, right? Ohio State, Michigan gets in, and then Georgia or Tennessee, no matter what. Because if Georgia somehow loses and falls out of, it doesn't win the SEC, they hop Tennessee because of the win, right? So it's SEC champ. So, man,
well, Georgia's going to win the SEC. Like, they're going to beat LSU by 1,000. I'm smashing Georgia against LSU, by the way.
No, you're right. I'm just trying to convince myself if a 1-loss TCU could get in, and I do think it could, and I also think a Pac-12 team like USC could get in with a win today. So I would say the 4 spots.
If USC runs the table, I think they have a chance to get in. But I don't think they're going to run the table. So I think it's going to be a little bit. If it's not TCU, I think it's going to be a little bit of chaos for that 4th spot. And I think that Michigan's going to be wishing that they scheduled a little bit tougher non-conference schedule, because
they're not getting in with 1 loss. They're not. They're not. Not to. You're right. Ohio State can because of those other wins, like Notre Dame.
Right.
Michigan can't. And I hope they don't. I pray they don't, because that was bullshit.
Well, especially over if it's a 1-loss conference champ. Like,
and Concert Crasher was saying Clemson's defense. Yes, he was out versus Notre Dame. He's been out 5 other games too.
Yeah,
so I mean,
it's not good. I'm just saying that, like, I'm thinking between UNC and Clemson, right? Like, playing in for the ACC, like, which one has a better chance of getting in if they win?
Clemson.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah,
just because of like Clemson, the brand name power. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, they did have who they beat to open the season. It was ugly, but it was it was Georgia Tech. That wasn't that nice. But anyway, it's Clemson, and I think in the end, I have Clemson to make the playoffs money. So I want it to happen, believe me. But
yeah, well, I think Clemson's conference schedule was tougher than UNC's, like off the top of my head, but I don't know.
Well, their side's way tougher. Yeah. They beat teams like Wake, which now Carolina did, but then they beat teams like Florida State. Carolina had to play them. Florida State's going to look like one of their best wins all year because the way Florida State's ending the season. So they had some quality wins. NC State,
Yeah,
when
definitely.
They were good.
It's going to be a lot of fun, man. But listen, today's games is going to help unpack it some more. We'll be back next week to talk about it. Michigan and Ohio State. Cannot wait. It's going to be the biggest game of the year. CJ Stroud, give him an opportunity to really put a stamp on his Heisman run. Obviously, as Drake May, running up right behind him, who's going to put up a ton of stats this week. I think they have Georgia Tech, so it's going to be like 7 touchdowns out of Drake May. So it's going to be a lot of fun. But we'll see. We'll see how it all turns out. But one thing is for sure, we will be back here next weekend, guys. Make sure you tune in. Do us a favor, follow the Sharp app, download the app, hop in the Discord community. All those links are down below. In the Discord community, we got people sweating out these bets all day, having a lot of fun, making money and commiserating, when the right side doesn't come home. But we got off to a good start last night, Dave, with South Florida. That one had us sweat a little bit, but they got it done. They got it done. I got a little bit worried around the third quarter.
And I had some San Diego State small out there too. That was a nice one. So it was a good start to the week. You're right. I didn't get into any matching this week because there was just a lot going on. But I feel like last night's going to roll into a really nice day for us. Can't wait.
Yeah. Big week. We're going to keep it rolling, guys. We'll see you back here next week. Good luck. Cash all your tickets and we'll be here for Michigan, Ohio State. Not going to be any bigger. Plus, we'll have some more bets for you guys. So have a good weekend. Cash all your bets. We'll see you next week.